Hi, my name is Bianca Pisciola. I'm the CEO of Six, and welcome to the Benchmark Metals Live Investor Summit. I'd like to start today by introducing our presenters, Jim Gregg, President of Benchmark Metals, and Ewan Webster, Geologist. To kick things off, Jim will be telling the company story, Ewan will talk about the geology, and then we'll be accepting questions. You can submit your questions in the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of the screen. Now, without further ado, take it away, Jim.
Good. Thank you, Bianca. It's a pleasure to be talking to you on behalf of Benchmark. As Bianca mentioned, I'm the president, and sitting beside me is Dr. Ewan Webster. This is appropriate timing because this morning we released news announcing the start of our 2020 exploration program. So we have a lot of news flow to come and a lot of work on the go. There will be 5 drill rigs spinning at some point later in June. Throughout this introduction and update to Benchmark, we'll talk about the team, the project, why this is an exceptionally good investment to make, especially during the next phase of a gold secular bull run. We will be making forward-looking statements, so just to give you notice that this is a venture-listed company, so there are inherent risks. However, we hope to downplay those risks and show why this is a great story. So Benchmark's located in northwestern British Columbia in a proven and prolific area. It is a gold and silver project. We are quite advanced with that exceptionally large amount of data to work from. Benchmark's part of a greater group of companies. We're called the Metals Group. There's 2 other companies within our umbrella. Altiplano Metals, which is producing copper and gold in Chile. And our newest company to the fold is Cortis. Cortis is a gold-focused explorer in Nevada. A quick introduction to the story here. Our Lawyers Gold and Silver Project is 100% owned. We're located in the Golden Horseshoe in northern British Columbia, which is road accessible. We do not require helicopter support. We're advancing and developing a substantial gold and silver resource. This is a past producer with in excess of $50 million in existing infrastructure. This includes roads, underground levels for development, and of course, a tailings facility which has been largely reclaimed. This is a proven and prolific mining jurisdictions. You can develop and build and start production in this area of BC. In fact, all of BC has become more open to mining, and it is possible to pull some precious metals from the ground here. The catalyst for growth, we're planning up to 50,000 meters of drilling. This will be followed by a large new resource estimate. And we're fully funded with over $10 million of capital ready to deploy on the next 9 months of work here. On the gold and silver story, all of our mineralization is near or at surface. It's an epithermal, low sulfidation system. There is a potential link here to a deeper porphyry system. It's a massive plumbing system across a 140 kilometer square kilometer package. A quick snapshot of some of the higher grade and good drill results we've had. You can see 7 meters of over 100 grams gold and over 100 grams silver. Just to give you an idea, by value, this is a potential gold mine, but certainly by quantity, it's all about silver here. So we're lucky in that we have both precious metals, gold and silver, and this should help prove the economics. It's a large 20-kilometer trend from corner to corner, and this is the first time in its inception, since its inception of working this project area, that we've consolidated all of the claims into one 140 square kilometer package. You can see on the right there, Benchmark sitting at approximately a $40 million market cap. And we believe the news and milestone events to come here over the next months up into Q1 of next year leads us to track to many multiples of where some of our peers are located. So the best time to get into this story is now, given we have a lot of news to come. We are now entering what we believe is another phase of a gold sector bull run. It's early stages for this company, Benchmark, although we are quite advanced. In 2 years, we've moved this very rapidly. And it's all about the 5 N's here. Market cap. We're sitting at a $40 million market cap. We think there's a lot of potential for appreciation and lift in the stock. On the management side, we'll get into it, but you're dealing with quite a few veterans and some young, fresh blood, as in Ewan beside me. So we're motivated, but we have done this before. We've brought projects into production and we've created wealth for individuals. On the money side, we have a good, strong treasury with in excess of $10.2 million. And on the minerals, well, gold and silver is now coming into favor. It is a trending investment story, and it's all about the debt in the world. And there's no better reason to put your money into Benchmark. Management are big shareholders of this story, so we win when all shareholders win. And then the last M, we're at the early stage of the mining cycle. We have a discovery, but we're about to prove that this has multi-million ounce potential. So over the course of 2 years, we've rapidly advanced this project. We started in 2018 with some very good showings in a brownfield story that was only marginally mined in the late 1980s. Through 2 years of drilling and some exceedingly good work on the ground, we're at a point now where we're positioning the company with a new mineral resource estimate. This is expected in Q1 of next year. And then following the resource estimate, we'll be looking to complete a new preliminary economic assessment. And that will show the viability of putting this into a mining scenario, or for better, show that the economics are robust and this is a real story to be put into production. On the share structure, there's currently just over 118 million shares issued outstanding. As I mentioned, just over $10 million in the treasury. We have additional warrants that some are in the money, but we do have some additional warrants at 40 cents. So there's potential here with market cap growth that we can bring in more money, more capital without going back to the market. As I mentioned, look, I didn't lose all my hair for nothing. I've been around the mining sector for well over 20 years. We're adding new members to the team. John Williamson's our chairman and statesman of the group, an exceedingly good technician and CEO. John was an original founder and director of Kaminak Resources. Kaminak sold about 4 years ago to Goldcorp for over $500 million. Myself, I was involved with another good story from years ago called Keegan Resources. Keegan went from a discovery to well over 5 million ounces, raised in excess of $300 million, and put a mine into production in West Africa. So the point of this is that we choose projects that have scope and scale to deliver results and either go into production or are taken over by another mining entity. And it's all about building value for the shareholders. Our entire team has extremely good marketing, financial, and technical acumen. And if you're going to bet on anything or invest in anything these days, first look at the management. And we believe this is the key to our story. So this is a good overview or picture of the landscape. It's relatively flat-lying with very little to no forestry cover. The ground is disturbed already from former production. We believe because there is some infrastructure lying and on the ground, and the fact that the ground is disturbed, it was permitted over 30 years ago, that this allows us to fast-track this project to a production scenario. During its historical production, it delivered near 170,000 ounces of gold, but very close to 4 million ounces of silver. We have year-round access through good roads straight to site. We're 11 kilometers from the Baker Shasta mill, which is permitted but not running at the moment. And we're 45 kilometers from the world-class Kemess gold copper mine, which as it stands right now is about to go through a $600 million underground expansion program. So this really is a proven and profitable mining jurisdiction. And now I'll pass things over to Ewan here to give a little bit more detail on the geology.
Thanks, Jim. I'll keep it brief on the geology, but I wanted to provide some regional and local context. The Lawyers Project is situated in north-central British Columbia. The map on the left shows it there. It's in the Stikine terrain, so that's the green package of rocks. And about 200 million years ago, magmatic events throughout Stikine were really the driving source for the development of the prolific porphyry and epithermal deposits that this area is renowned for. I've got some of them on the map here, both porphyry and epithermal. And you can see they form a kind of arcuate shape around the brown package of rocks in the middle. That's the Bowser Basin sediments. That arcuate shape we've been referring to as the golden horseshoe. And really that's to emphasize the potential that exists on the east side of the Bowser Basin. It's the same rocks, the same age of mineralization, and the same potential as the west side. And the east side has essentially gone overlooked for the last 30 years. More specifically, our project, as Jim mentioned, is about 45 kilometers northwest of Centerra's Kemess gold copper porphyry mine. It's road accessible from Prince George, and there's a power line tie-in as well at Kemess. The road is in excellent condition, and we also recently just completed some infrastructure upgrades just north of Kemess on some of the bridges. There is also a small airstrip to the south of Lawyers, the Sturdy airstrip. We utilised that in 2018 and 19, and will again this year as needed. It's in fantastic condition. So the Lawyers property is predominantly underlain by the Jurassic Tudigon Formation rocks. It's a sequence of volcanic andesites and dacites. They dip shallowly to the northwest. And as this volcanism was ongoing during the Jurassic, coincident deep-seated extensional faults developed at the same time. And it's these faults that acted as the conduits for those mineralizing fluids to come up from depth. And as they moved up on the crust, formed the low sulfidation gold-silver systems that we recognize on the property. The overall package of rocks is relatively unaltered, but as you get closer in proximity to the mineralization and the fault zones, we recognize a sequence of alteration from propylitic, so predominantly chlorite epidote alteration, through hematite, argillic, quartz-sericite pyrite, and then adjacent to the fault, more pervasive silica alteration and potassic adularia alteration as well. The mineralization can broadly be broken into two discrete types. One would be 1 to 5 meter wide veins, quartz veins and pervasive silica alteration that contain semi-massive sulfides and native gold, silver, and electrum. And really that was the focus of the 1980s and early 90s work. It was all underground and it was focused on these narrow areas. What they overlooked or didn't recognize during that time was adjacent to these zones are broad areas of hydrothermal breccias, so chalcedonic breccias and hematitic breccias that also contain significant gold and silver and electrum. And this is really the focus of this story now and how it's changed over 30 years. We're no longer looking at narrow, discrete veins. We're looking at broad bulk tonnage, open pit scenario mining as we move forward. So I'll pass it back to Jim with that.
So this map shows the 140 square kilometer package. The map on the left-hand side shows the radiometric geophysics, which are draped over top of our resource zones and our areas for new targets. And the point here is radiometrics are particularly good at illustrating areas of potassic alteration. Potassic alteration is an alteration in the rock where fluids have been carried subsurface. So you have this high temperature fluid which carries the gold and silver to surface. And that is particularly well illustrated in the red and pink areas. And so if you look at the red polygon in the center of the property, these are the zones that we have been drilling the last 2 seasons. There'll be a focus for the majority of the work this season, near 50,000 meters. But the added bonus to this project is we have consolidated the entire package area. This is the first time in well over 30 years that a company has looked at the 20-kilometer trend over the greater package. And because of this work we've done over the last 2 years, we've also isolated 6 other zones represented in those blue and purple polygons. These are areas for new discovery potential. And we hope to focus on 2 of them this season, being Silver Pond, which is a porphyry target, and then also Marmot just below as a new epithermal target. None of those outside targets have ever been drilled. And so what we're trying to show here is this, there's tremendous potential across this entire package. In the center are more developed areas where we have drilled and there's extremely good historical data. You'll see the Cliff Creek zone, Duke's Ridge zone, and AGB. All of those areas are focused for this year's drilling. We have 5 resource areas for expansion and definition drilling. As I mentioned, there's 2 new discovery zones to be tested this year outside of that red polygon. And that represents over 6 early stage targets that we will be developing. What was overlooked here 30 years ago and was mentioned by Ewan was that there was not much emphasis on bulk tonnage potential, or none whatsoever. We see mineralization here at surface. It drops to well over 300 meters depth. In the past, they were only mining the 5 to 7 meter high grade areas. And what we've discovered through 2 years of work is that there are these moderate grade halos surrounding these high grade areas. And that has lent itself to show that we have potential for multiple open pits here at surface. Evidenced on the high grade intercepts there, you can see the table on the left, the high grade drill results. We've seen close to 1 meter and over 3 meter intercepts that have multi-ounce gold grades, but silver grades that are in over 8,000 grams per ton silver. Quite compelling on the high grade portion of this property. On the bulk tonnage side, the right side of the table, you can see 33 meters of near 6 grams gold and over 100 grams silver. This is another example of things that were overlooked in the past. This drill intercept was a portion of drilling from years ago that we resampled, and it went from under 10 meter intercept to over 30 meters containing very good gold and silver. And this intercept in particular was underfoot. It went from surface straight down.
So this particular section is from the northern end of Cliff Creek. The Cliff Creek zone extends for just over 1.2 kilometers along strike. It's about 300 meters wide and about 300 meters deep, and it's open in all directions. We've chosen this particular example to really show the discovery potential that exists even within the heart of the project, even within 50 meters of where they were historically mining and drilling. You can see the main zone there in the center. That was the focus historically. We drilled through the top of that in 2019, intersected some good grades, kept the drill turning, and At deeper level, intersected a new zone previously unrecognized that returned 36.3 meters of just over 3 grams gold equivalent, with a higher grade interval as well, so 3 meters at just over 18 grams gold equivalent. And that's only 50 meters away from where they were historically mining. So the discovery potential within the area, within these resource areas, is significant. And we will be testing a long strike extension of this new zone this year with the potential to add ounces quickly. It also may connect to the southeast and the Duke's Ridge system as well.
So in March of this year, we released an exploration target for our largest zone that contains the most data. It's called Cliff Creek. There are another 4 zones surrounding this that are nearby that also have potential to generate significant gold and silver ounces. But Cliff Creek in particular is on strike, is a 1.2 kilometer long area on strike. It is actually remains open on strike and depth, and to a large extent on width. Our target here was 1.9 million ounces, grading 1.7 grams gold equivalent. And so this serves as a base in Cliff Creek, and we think we can expand upon this in addition to the other zones surrounding it. The best part about this target is that it was utilized using substantial drill-defined data. And that tonnage that we have is all within 300 meters of surface. 86% of those gold equivalent exploration target ounces are within 300 meters of surface, which essentially is the ultimate depth of an open pit scenario. So this is the heart of the property. Contains the Cliff Creek zone, Duke's Ridge to Phoenix, and then the higher grade AGB zone to the upper northeast. In red, you can see the drill-defined mineralized areas. And these have been sunken in depressed areas where we've outlined pit shell. So these are $1,600 pit shells that we've done internally, and it essentially shows the shape of what could be or will be a mining scenario in the future. Draped over top of this topography is ground magnetics. You can see the blue and purple hues, and these are structurally confined corridors where the mineralization lies. And so a part of the drilling here in the future is we will test some of those hues or the anomalous mag features. There is potential to develop more ounces at Cliff Creek, Duke's Ridge, and AGB. But 2/3 of the drilling here will be focused on resource expansion and definition. And that's where we hope one of the key catalysts for growth comes from. So our objectives here and major milestones, we're now into Q3 of 2020. We just announced the start of our drill program. This will run through September of this year. We anticipate putting out some rather robust results through end of July, August, September, into the fall of this year. There will be 5 drills turning. In addition to that, we will be performing some geotechnical and engineering work. We anticipate the new mineral resource estimate to be delivered Q1 of 2021. That's not far away. That's just over 6 months' time from now, 6 to 9 months. That will be based on all the historical data, the 2018, 2019 drilling, and then up to 50,000 meters of drilling this year. So we will have in excess of over 100,000 meters of drilling to be involved in a global resource estimate. On the back of the resource, we'll be completing a scoping study, otherwise known as a preliminary economic assessment. We're conducting work this summer to contribute to this PEA, and that should be released in Q2 of next year, so conceivably 9 months away. So over the course of the next 9 months, we'll have completed 50,000 meters of drilling, delivered a mineral resource estimate, that should show multi-million ounces of gold and silver. And then the finale will be an economic study that shows this is a real mining endeavor. In summary here, look, this is quite a compelling story. And you've got to keep in mind that management and the board are all shareholders. Benchmark owns 100% of this gold-silver project. It's located in a proven and prolific road-accessible area of British Columbia. It's a large land package that we're just only starting to uncover the real potential. We've done significant work over the past 2 years. We're fast-tracking this project to a production decision. The near-term objectives, as I mentioned, up to 50,000 meters of drilling, a new mineral resource estimate, and then that'll be finaled with a preliminary economic study. And you've got to keep in mind that this is a bulk tonnage mining scenario, potential here for multiple open pits. This isn't a costly underground endeavor story. There perhaps may be underground mining, but that would be later in the mine life once the open pits are depleted. We believe because our market cap is at $40 million and there's a strong capital in the treasury, with these milestones, this is a very compelling story to invest in right now as we speak. And we'll follow with questions. Thank you for listening to Ewan and I. And, you know, in the future here, we've been very good at delivering news flow, and we anticipate more news flow to be delivered every 7 to 10 days, right through the fall of this year. Happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, guys, can you hear me? Jim, Ewan, can you hear me on my side?
You're loud and clear, Bianca.
Oh, great. Okay, question time. All right, first question here is from Peter Vocal. He says, what will the drill sequence be in 2020? First CC, then AGB, etc., or all areas in parallel?
We'll be starting at Cliff Creek North area, but so we will. There is 5 drills planned at the height of this program, so there'll be a dedicated drill starting at Cliff Creek North. But the focus initially is to start on resource expansion and definition drilling. There is also a dedicated drill that'll be located at the higher grade AGB zone. So initially, all of the drilling is on resource expansion. We will later put drills to work on some of the exploration side of the story.
Great. Question here from Graham. Do you anticipate having enough labor to run a 5-rig program?
At this point in time, we're equipped. Yep. We've actually, through the course of the spring and even late winter, because of the COVID issues, we spent significant money planning well ahead of time. We did some early purchases of equipment and supplies needed just to not be distracted by supply issues or supply chain disruptions. We've also got our teams in plan for the geotechnical, but also the geological work. And they've actually just begun mobilizing to site as we speak. So we're in good shape in terms of people, equipment, and supplies.
Helmut wants to know, does Benchmark prefer takeover or to own the production?
So, you know, I think part of the message you and I are trying to tell here is we are completing as much work as we can to move this from a geological to an engineering scenario where it is a mine go-ahead decision. So that being said, we'll complete all the steps necessary to get to a mining decision. However, management are shareholders, and if a significant offer comes along that rewards the shareholders with a good premium, we would certainly entertain this. And this is a decision that we're working towards. We would most certainly entertain a takeout position that rewarded shareholders. But along the way, we've got to complete all the steps necessary to get this into production.
Makes sense. Billy wants to know, what are the expectations for resource expansion after this year's program?
So I think we covered that on the last question a little bit. We will complete a preliminary economic assessment for Q2 of next year. However, the next stage after that is increased geotechnical, increased engineering, and then, of course, more resource expansion work. So there'll be larger, bigger campaigns that involve a lot more drilling, but also working towards more detailed economic studies.
What I would add to that as well is that there's a couple of advanced exploration targets that look very promising, and there's some other kind of tertiary targets throughout the project as well that certainly there's significant discovery potential, and with discovery there's possibility to add more ounces to that core area of where we'll be focused for the resource.
Great. Narmina asks, what company is doing your scoping/feasibility study?
We're currently vetting some selected companies, so it hasn't been chosen yet. But we are engaging companies who have worked on projects of similar scope and scale, and have proven that the economics are viable with this type of project. There will be an announcement forthcoming on that once an appropriate company is selected.
Billy asks, what is the target for the entire project? 2 million, or could it be bigger? What could that be worth?
Well, I would say, we are looking at drilling as many ounces as we can, but within a pit shell confined constraints. So I think a good base to utilize is the Cliff Creek exploration target of near 2 million ounces. But there is potential here to expand that much higher with good results. I think a very good comparable is to look at Kamanak's coffee project in the Yukon. It sold for just over $500 million about 4 years ago. I think that would be a very good comparable of what we're heading to.
Just one other thing as well, Billy. Remember that resource target was just for the Cliff Creek area. We also have drill-defined mineralized domains, and we've done some internal work on those as well at both Duke's Ridge and the Phoenix Extension and AGB. And as I mentioned earlier, we have some significant exploration targets that we'll be doing some drilling on this year to test those for the first time. So, globally within the project itself, there's certainly potential to significantly increase the ounces.
Great. Helmut asks, is CC connected with DR or AGB? So could we maybe expect one big pit?
So I suspect they probably are connected. That's a very good point. And Jim, in the presentation, there was one slide that showed the topography with thanks, Jim. You can see the Duke's Ridge zone there. It's trending to the northwest. It's situated in kind of a magnetic low, and you can see that it extends along to the north towards Cliff Creek. And if you remember that one particular section that I showed you for Cliff Creek, where we intersected 36 grams in that new zone exactly, we suspect that this either is a parallel structure to the main zone, or that the Duke's Ridge zone connects to the Cliff Creek zone, and this is the northern extension of that system. Certainly the geophysics are indicating that, the drill intercepts are indicating that, so certainly a possibility for the merging of those zones on one big pit.
Cool. Narmina wants to know, what are your current bottlenecks?
I'd say, we've done an exceedingly good job at providing planning for the COVID measures. So it does provide a few obstacles, but we've done a very good job mitigating these obstacles. And so, we're following provincial government and federal government guidelines on how to operate. So we've got rotations with crews going in and out, but there's a 2-week period where all crews remain isolated before entering camp. And it's approximately a 4-week rotation at site, and then a 2-week rotation or break time after. And these are all bookmarked on either end with isolation periods. So that is our biggest obstacle right now, is just operating in a more difficult period where you simply can't have people going in and out of camp as they please. But we've prepared for this.
Great. Billy wants a little bit more clarification. So the 1.9 million is potentially in just 4 to 5 zones, and could it be, in theory, closer to 3 to 4 million? Is that possible?
So that 1.9 million exploration target is in one single zone called Cliff Creek. There's 3 other areas that contain multiple zones in the heart of the property. Those will also contribute significant ounces. But that Cliff Creek target is the Cliff Creek zone only. That is 1.9 million ounce target at 1.7 grams. We expect that the Dukes Ridge to Phoenix zone and then the AGB zone to also contribute significant ounces. And so it's going to be a global resource estimate that comes from 3 areas across multiple zones.
Yep.
Great. Griffin asks, if I'm right, there are 3 million more shares added to the share structure. How do they come about?
So on June 8th, last week, we completed or more warrants were exercised. And so we had a group of warrants that were in the money. They had an exercise price of 2.5 cents. The stock last week and this week is trading in and around the 37-cent level. So those shareholders made money in 2 ways. They either sold their initial common shares or they exercised and sold their warrants. So we did provide some good wins here over the past 2 years. So that's where the extra or the larger amount of issued and outstanding shares came from, was the exercising of warrants.
Makes sense. Peter asks, could you please repeat the CC dimensions? Did I hear correctly that it's 1200 by 300 by 300?
Yeah, that's correct, Peter. You can see in the image here, this is the Cliff Creek zone. It extends along 1.2 kilometers and is made up of several drill-defined mineralized domains. And those extend down dip to approximately 300 meters. But the system itself remains open in all directions as well. As Jim mentioned earlier, our focus for the drilling is really within those model pit shells to add ounces of what is mineable. But we are planning on drilling some deeper holes as well to test the mineralization as it extends below where our current drilling is.
Great. This one's from James Carl. Does Benchmark Metals currently own the mothballed mineral processing plant, or is that to be a third-party partner / vendor?
So I think you're referring to the Baker Shasta Mill, which sits to the southeast of us. We do not own this facility. And at this point in time, it's probably not a focus because it's to be determined whether that mill and facility would be fit for purpose on our ground. We are conducting metallurgy as we speak, and through the course of the coming weeks and months, The metallurgy will be an iterative process to understand the flow sheet. And so once we get to a point where we truly understand the process plant options, that's when there'll be some better understanding of what type of facilities are required here.
Great. Jeffrey is asking, who are your major shareholders?
So there's about a breakup of really three major shareholder groups in the company. Eric Sprott is our single largest shareholder. Eric invested in Benchmark in September and in November of last year. He holds just over 19% of the company. He is a key flagship shareholder, and that does involve some partnerships and working with Sprott Capital. We do have some institutional ownership in Canada and the US as well. Management and close insiders hold near to 20% of the company. And then the original vendors private vendors who did some very good work on this property through the 90s and early up to 2013, they hold just over, I'll say 12% of the company. So truly 50% of the shareholdings in this company are within management, close associates, institutional ownership, and Eric Sprott. And then the remaining 50% are within retail hands. But we do show good liquidity. Believe on a daily basis, we trade close to 150,000 shares a day.
I have two questions here by Hugo. The first one is, do you have the help of governments?
So the help of government comes from providing all the necessary permitting steps. So provided that we work forward in a sustainable fashion and work with all stakeholder groups, there should be no issue with permitting and moving forward. It's very clear and transparent, the steps involved with the British Columbia. And in some ways, there's some federal government involvement on the permitting process. So that there's many steps that need to be completed towards production. But we are completing those steps as needed and establishing this project so that, in Q2 of next year, we'll have economics and a mine go forward type decision.
Great. Second question here from Hugo. How is the relationship with the First Nations community?
We've got 4 First Nations groups. We've had some very good relationships with all 4 of the groups that are in this territory. They've been very cooperative. In fact, the Seke Dene and Quadacha First Nations provided some capital to go towards our infrastructure improvements and bridge repairs. Over the course of 2 years, we have hired all First Nations to work on our project. That includes drillers, helpers, core cutters, staff working across the entire property, actually. We're engaging First Nations as much as we can, simply because they are talented and we are on their cultural ground, and they see the benefits to moving this project towards a mining scenario.
Griffin asks, Silver Pond, porphyry, suspect gold, silver, or copper?
So, good question. Silver Pond is one of these exciting kind of advanced exploration targets. It's only 850 meters northwest of the main Cliff Creek zone. It's a 4 square kilometer area of advanced argillic and clay alteration. It's never been systematically sampled, mapped, or drilled, and this type of advanced argillic alteration is more commonly associated with high sulfidation and porphyry type environments. And those are well documented throughout the Toodoggone. So we suspect that that's maybe the type of system at work here. And we have a really detailed program planned for this summer at Silver Pond. But to answer your question, I suspect it will be gold, silver, and probably a base metal component to it as well, because that's typically similar to what you get in most high sulfidation systems. Low sulfidation being predominantly just gold, silver.
Another question here. This one's about your working capital. It comes from Jeffrey, and he says, "You state that you're fully funded. Is this based currently on your current working capital? And if so, how would plans change if you use fully diluted working capital?"
So, as we mentioned, there is $10.2 million in the Treasury. This program we're planning has a budget of approximately $8.5 million. So we do have the necessary funds to complete a major drill program here and a mineral resource estimate. If additional capital came in, either through warrants or options or by other means, we would consider more drilling, more expansion work, and that would also provide funding towards the scoping or preliminary economic assessment.
A question here about the warrants. Can you just confirm the price of the warrants? Is it 2.5 cents? Was the question?
So we fully 100% of the warrants were exercised at 22.5 cents. We do have additional warrants that are priced at 40 cents. And we just actually updated the tables on the website, but also on the corporate presentation. So all of the share structure is up to date and outlined on the website.
Perfect. Question here from Lori. I believe we talked about this previously, but in case anyone missed it, he's asking, what is the percentage of shares that are owned by insiders?
So insiders, management, and the board of directors, I can't give an exact number on that, but I'll say we are approximately just below 15% total ownership.
Great.
And we do participate in the private placements. And I do know that all of the management that held warrants exercised those warrants as of last week.
Perfect. We're coming to the end of our questions. So if anyone has any questions now, please submit them, and then we'll be moving on to Jim's final word. Question here from David. What other mining companies are near your location?
So the largest mining company near to us is located at the Kemess gold copper mine. This is a porphyry deposit. This is owned by Centerra. Centerra is a major worldwide producer with operations located in different parts of the world. They are 45 kilometers away. Centerra and Kemess is embarking on a $600 million underground development program. And so they would be the flagship or the key large operator within our jurisdiction.
Great. That's it for the investor questions. I have one final question for you both. What are you guys most excited about in the next few months?
Drill results.
Yeah.
There's no question. We are very excited to have the drills turning. You know, we will have 5 drills turning at our project site soon. We anticipate seeing some very similar results to last year.
Yep.
Some very high grade, 2 to 7 meter type intercepts. But more importantly, we anticipate seeing bulk tonnage type results that will, go from anywhere from 25 to likely well over 150 meters from surface.
Yep.
And, these results we believe will be the catalyst to move the market cap of the company. And so it's all about results, and we're going to deliver. We have a big program planned.
I think the trick was me saying that there were no further questions, because we got some more questions as you're answering. Are you guys game for a few more?
Sure, far away.
Hey, great. Griffin asks, is there already interest from majors? Majors. He said mayors. I know he means majors.
Yeah. Well, we have an exceedingly good data room that's been established, and we do have third parties and confidentiality agreements signed. Of course, we can't name them, but there are companies reviewing our data and watching us very closely. So, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And it's also an opportunity to share knowledge, with companies that are in production, and they can learn from us, and vice versa. We can learn from them. So at this point, it's good data sharing, and with results, we'll see what happens.
Great. Victor asks, please indicate what kind of radiometric image.
It is potassium thorium radiometrics. So the ratio between potassium and thorium. Hopefully that helps.
I think so. Cool. You guys got a bunch of compliments, but besides that, I think we are at the end of the Q&A. So big thank you to everybody who attended. Big thank you to our presenters. If you had a question that either didn't get answered today or you couldn't submit, feel free to either contact us directly at friends@six.com, and we'll pass it along to the Benchmark team, or reach out to them directly. You can go to their website, and there is a contact page there, and right there in front of you. I will pass it along to you folks now, Jim and Ewan, for the final word, and very excited to see what you have in store.
Good. Thank you, Bianca. Yeah, in summary, there's 3 major milestones as catalysts for growth in this company. Up to 50,000 meters of drilling, a new robust multi-million ounce resource estimate, and then finally an economic study to show that this is a real viable mine. As mentioned, we do have an exceedingly good capital structure, but also treasury to support our efforts going forward. So, this is a very good time to get involved with the story, because news flow is about to begin that deliver results.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, thank you, everyone. Take care, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.